Hello everyone, this is Hakaym and welcome back to another episode of World of Warships, and today we are going to be talking about quite a few things, quite a few different topics, but first off, let's talk about the fact that I've never shown off the Molotov in any of my videos. I earned the Molotov during one of the Christmas crates, got it for free, which is nice, and it's actually a decent ship. She is very quick, she has very reliable guns, nice hard hitting, very reliably to hit targets at long range, very similar to the Donskoy's guns as far as ballistics. But she does have some weakness. She is a tier 6 and she has very thin armor, very much similar to the Kirov, which leads into why I wanted to show off this ship. We are playing on Hotspot. We have a Lexington, Alabama, Bismarck, Scharnhorst, Warspite, 2 Edinburghs, DeGrasse, Molotov, Kidd, and a Mosk, and a Gallant. On the enemy team, there's a Lexington, 2 Tirpitz, a Nelson, Bayern, New Orleans, Edinburgh, Pensacola, Cleveland, Leander, Kagero, and Gallant. And this probably, as many of you are well aware, some tiers are worse off than others. Tier 6 is probably one of the worst tiers to play because most times you will be matched up higher to tier 8. And there is a significant change between tier 8s and tier 6. And tier 6 are going to have a much more difficult time being more competitive and being able to actually do their job than a tier 8 would be. So, with that in mind, one thing I wanted to talk about is what you really should be doing when you are a low tier, such as a tier 6 and a tier 8 battle. Now, fortunately, Hotspot's actually a really good map, and it also is very fortunate that we were actually placed in a fairly decent side. Over here at the new D cap, since they did change the layout of Hotspot, it has these islands, and this is something you're going to rely on when you are especially a low tier cruiser, such as the Molotov with very poor armor, is the fact that you do need islands to protect yourself. Once again, the Molotov's armor is quite terrible, but Molotov does have some things compared to its other sister ships of the same tier, is the fact that her guns are very reliable indeed. Now, as I obviously did point out, you have to play smart. You have to. Now, you can't play too overly passive. If you play too overly passive, you're not being helpful to your team. You're not offering support. And the Molotov, being a fairly decent ship, the reload is kind of long, so you do have to keep in mind of that. She can start fires, and this is a really good position for this Molotov to be in, even though there is a carrier within this battle. Now, one thing you may have noticed, I'm quite terrible at using the spottercraft when firing. It's something I desperately need to work on, and I'm improving slowly by slowly. But with that in mind, we are using the full advantage of the spottercraft to give us additional range because, once again, tier 6 guns, they do have a much more limited range than their tier 8 or tier 7 counterparts. So you do have to use any available advantage that you can to ensure that you offer support to your team. So, fairly quick recommendations and talking about essentially being a low tier in a higher tier match. Another crucial thing you should also keep in mind is the fact of watching the map. Keeping an eye on the map. Always be aware of the situation of what's happening in the battle. That is going to be highly important, and as you will see in this battle, it is going to be very, very crucial, and some players just yet haven't seemed to be able to grasp that notion. So, as I've obviously talked about, we're a low tier Molotov, which, once again, is actually a decent premium with its guns. Very thin armor, very poor AA suite, so don't rely on shooting down planes with this ship, but still semi-decent as far as causing damage, and if played properly, can do a fairly substantial amount of damage. So with that being said, let's actually talk about the battle. Now, I am actually joined in with one of my clanmates, Murakamo, who has been in a few of my videos before. is in the Glass, which is another good tier 6 premium ship, which is the French ship. And we have just earned first blood, so things are looking decent for our team at the time. We are actually ahead of ship, and we are ahead in caps. We have B and D, and are currently working on getting A. However, majority of our forces is currently situated more towards the D cap. Now, you did see there, I did use my torpedoes to gauge what this Tirpitz is doing, get a good idea on which way he's going, and as you can see, that is very reliable if you're trying to gauge speed. Always use that if you do have the ability of using your torpedoes. But unfortunately for our team, just really tries to kind of let us down. Unfortunately, we have just lost our friendly Edinburgh to our friendly Edinburgh. So now we are even on ships, but we're still ahead in points. And now we are down a ship due to loss of the Moss. Because unfortunately, majority of our forces went over towards D and not so much over towards A. And we have just lost our other destroyer, so things aren't looking particularly good. Now, once again, Molotov, fairly decent. And as you can see, I've been using the island cover to my full advantage because it is going to prove beneficial. Now, at this time, Carrier is doing a smart decision. He is actually staying behind our forces, staying semi-close. But at the exact same time, our forces aren't doing that great of a job as far as ensuring that no ship gets behind us. Now, our CV is trying his very best to get planes out and to spot. And at the moment, there's no ships on the eastern side of this map. And yet we have just lost our Bismarck, and now the A-cap is currently being captured by the enemy team, and the enemy team is now ahead in points by about 800, about 900, 990, about 90 points. So things aren't going overly well, and another bad thing about the Molotov is she's very long and doesn't really turn that tightly, which does make getting turned around very difficult, but we're going to try our best. Now, as I did mention, keeping an eye on the map is very crucial, and unfortunately for our team, we still have 2 destroyers kind of unaccounted for. The majority of our destroyers are dead. We only have 1 left alive, and we know where 1 destroyer is. 1 was over towards A. I believe that was the Garrow. And there is still yet another ship, another destroyer around. And if we look at the map, we can see that he was at least spotted on the eastern front. And our poor CV has decided to move in that direction. Once again, not a terrible decision on his part. But at the exact same time, he is going to be in a very unfortunate situation of a destroyer coming to hound him. And I obviously realize this, and I'm actually going to get my ship turned around. Now, the Molotov, once again, her guns are very hard-hitting, very reliable. So if the destroyer is spotted, should be able to at least knock it down. And unfortunately for myself, there's a Tirpitz coming around, and a Tirpitz versus a Molotov. My money is going to be on the Tirpitz any day, so I really got to be careful. But at the moment, we are currently spotted, which probably is going to mean that the destroyer is nearby and has currently spotted our Lexington. Now, the Lexington is not a very stealthy ship, so by no means it is surprising that she is in fact spotted. But at this time, I do have to be careful myself. I can't really push out there because there is a Tirpitz, and oh, looky there, there's the galleon, fortunately spotted by our friendly CV. And I think our CV is going to try to torp him if at all possible. Fairly decent hit on the gallant, and our CV is dropping torps, but unfortunately for us, the Lexington's planes are actually the only thing spotting that gallant, and with the torpedo planes pulling away, we can no longer spot him, and our CV is still coming in the same direction, and it is not going to be a good time for him. Gallant is once again spotted. Obviously turning my guns as quickly as possible, but once again these guns are very slow on reloading, and unfortunately trying to hit a destroyer moving that nimbly is going to be a lot more difficult, and he does start to slow up, has dropped his torpedoes, and unfortunately is going to focus on taking out our friendly Lexington. But at this time our battle is not overly going our way. We are down one ship. We are starting to lose B, and we are essentially corralled on the eastern front, and unfortunately we have just lost our Lexington to the enemy gallant, and I have found myself in a rather unfortunate position of being fairly close to a Tirpitz. Tirpitz I really don't want to meet all too gladly, so I'm taking my time, but look at there, the gallant spotted. Can we take him out? If we can take him out, that would be extremely fortunate. Less likely get torpedoed by him. But unfortunately, the Tirpitz is now starting to focus us, especially with his secondary guns, which do hit pretty hard against a lightly armored cruiser. But if we take our time, we should be fine. And unfortunately for us, well, I think it's time for a knife fight between a Molotov and a Tirpitz. Once again, my money is on the Molotov. See if things go this way. And our team is down essentially 3 ships. They still have a carrier, and they still have quite a few of their battleships, a couple of their battleships. Now, the Molotov's torpedoes aren't impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And the Tirpitz also has torpedoes, and looks like we managed to dodge them. However, the Tirpitz does not dodge our own, leaving him very low on health. And there we go. Kill secured. Tirpitz is down, and I am still left alive. And oh, looky there. There's that pesky gallant still alive with 1,000, almost 2,000 points of health. Can we finish him off? This gallant has been a pesky bug to us at this time. Now, in a moment, once again, these guns are fantastic. And look at that, leaving him so incredibly low in health. He does use his damage control, and should be able to finish this gallant off once and for all. And there we go. Kill secured. Kill number 3 for us, and that has brought us a little bit closer on the enemy side. And all that's left is their enemy Kagero, Bjorn, Shikaku, and I believe also their Cleveland. Their Lexington, sorry. They did have a Lexington. So at this time, things are still a little tense. We still have our Alabama. He's very, very low in health, and is starting to push against the Bayern. Now, honestly, my money would be on the Alabama, but Bayern just has to get a few good hits and should be able to take out our Alabama. But we'll try to support him as best as possible. But once again, these guns on the Molotov are actually really good. Now, I've been really hyping up the Molotov. It's still a weak ship, and still needs to be keep in mind that if you are in a tier 8 battle, you do need to be cautious, because the armor is non-existent on this ship. So pretty much in this battle we've talked about keeping an eye on the map, keeping an eye on your positioning of said map, and probably one major thing is trying to support your friendlies whenever possible. Now, unfortunately, this Alabama was just too far outside of my AA range that I wasn't able to provide any support, and now has gone down to the Lexington. So teams are actually fairly close. They only have a destroyer and a Lexington versus a Gras, a Molotov, and I believe it is the Kid that's still alive and well. And this kid actually has good AA and is doing the smart thing of pushing towards A. Now, I am obviously talking to my friend and hoping and asking for him to start moving north, because at the moment there's not really any good intel on where the enemy destroyer is, but there's fairly good intel on where the enemy CV was, because we did see his planes start coming out of the western side and heading back towards the west, the northwest to be specific. So that probably means he is near the B cap in between A and B on the northwest side. So with that in mind, probably should start looking in that direction. But yes, honestly, trying to cap A is going to be the most ideal situation. So we are going to try to get B capped as quickly as possible. And unfortunately for the Molotov's AA is not particularly the greatest, nor is she an overly sneaky ship. And as you can see, we are currently being detected probably by the enemy Kagero. Now the kid, and this is probably also, I probably should have been pointing this out, the kid probably should have been alerted to come north, because the kid has the best possibility of taking out a enemy destroyer. Now, as we are being detected, more than likely we are probably going to have torpedoes dropped on us, and once again, the Kagero is a very sneaky ship, and when you have a very semi-decent torpedo boat, good idea is to change directions and change speed. And looky there are those torpedoes, and it looks like both racks are off, and B is at the point almost fully captured, halfway done. But unfortunately myself, this Kagero is going to be a somewhat of a fight. Now our team is ahead in points. We have 3 minutes left, and there is the smoke, and there is the Kagero. But unfortunately, I am in a bit of a bind because I also have the enemy CV coming in. Now the Kagero has reset B, and my friend is trying to get up here as quickly as possible, and still get a decent hit on the enemy Kagero. And now we do have defensive fire up, but can we actually squeeze this? Because this is actually very difficult for the Molotov to do. Yeah, wow, surprisingly, we actually managed to get through those torpedoes, but we're at the mercy of the Kagero's guns and also the dive bombers, and this Kagero is definitely being a problem. And now we are on fire, and we will be going down here in a moment. But fortunately for our team, my death is not gonna be the downfall of our battle. Now, I've talked about a lot of different stuff, and I mean, I will have to say this was a fairly decent battle, 103k. And there's one last final thing I should talk about. Try to control your temper. Now, I tried to do the very best that I can, and sometimes I get annoyed, and I kind of call out on this friendly kid about his positioning, and he apologizes. And so, being the person of who I am, I apologize as well, because sometimes maybe he's newer, maybe he's still learning, or maybe he just, I don't know, maybe he wasn't completely aware, who knows. But at least he was aware of his possible actions, and I was aware of my words as well, that fortunately we did apologize, and that's something you have to keep in mind. It is just a game, and yes, I know it can be frustrating to have very bad teammates or very unaware teammates. Oblivious teammates is probably almost the best way. But at this time, we are going to win this battle, and it was a good battle all the same, considering it was a tier 6 and a tier 8 battle. So, not bad. And the kid did a really good job in this battle as well. He has definitely done his fair share on as far as damage, taking 2 kills. So, he's done actually good work compared to some other teammates of ours. So, otherwise, not bad. But anyways, this is going to be it for this episode of World of Warships. Thank you guys so much for joining in, and if you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have a great and fantastic day. Zaijian.